Welcome to another episode of the Flats Nation podcast. And a big shout out to Brother Dave Fader down in Amarada for the awesome music. You can check out more of Dave's phenomenal work on davidfader.com. Well, today we have another Flats Nation team member, Brother Robbie Hunziker from Shore Up Trolling Motor Mounts. Just an awesome product, and we're going to pull a deep dive into that puppy today, how it can help you save on, if not one of the most expensive add-ons on your boat, and that's the trolling motor. Brother, welcome aboard Flats Nation today. It's great to talk to you.
Great to be on here, Dave. I appreciate the invite.
Tell me, when did you get started on the company, and a brief history for those who are not aware of your product?
Well, it started about 3 or 4 years ago, and kind of got like the arm idea from a buddy of mine, honestly. And then I messed with it, and I literally put it down for a whole year.
Wow.
It just frustrated me. And I think about it, and I go back to the shop, and I play around, I prototype, and then I ran one, like a crappy version, like not very pretty, but made it work for myself.
Sure, prototype. I get it.
Yeah, like a legit prototype, like an ugly prototype. And it went from there. And then while we were doing it, it's just like, well, if we're going to do this, let's have this thing slide. And then let's do this and let's do that. It all started with the support on. That was the whole concept in my head at the beginning. And it just evolved into what it is now. So it's been out for, out for like a year and a half now.
Wow.
And it
great.
It grows a little bit every day, so it's been good.
I know you fish hard on the Redfish Tournament Trail. How was that trial by fire improve your time management using this mount, and any shortfalls you found in the original prototype that you had to change due to that pounding that I know that you put on one?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun fishing those tournaments for sure, and we all try to protect our equipment, but when it's game day, it's just, you don't care. Like that's when you really test it. And bad conditions, you got to go. You don't get to go, I don't feel like going out today. It's blowing.
Right.
And that's the downfall of tournament fishing. But yeah, I mean, I actually, because of that and some testing that I had done for so long with a few different guys, and all of them were fishing every day, whether they were at home on the water or on the tournament, doing some of the tournament stuff like myself. I actually made some changes to it during that process that held me back even longer. But it was well worth it because, we got some flaws out, found a weak spot, and got all that fixed before the public had to deal with any issues, and the headaches. So it definitely helped me a bunch with the product.
I bet. Well, R&D on a tournament trail, I mean, you guys are pounding stuff to death. It's not an elective. You got to go if you want to win, bottom line.
Correct.
What other materials that are employed for both the plastic and the metal, as far as the base and the whole composition? What do we got? What are we using on this?
So the puck, the main base, and the support arm itself are all out of genuine Starboard ST.
Okay.
People probably don't realize that Starboard makes many, many, many different models of Starboard. It's not just what they see like in a tackle station.
Right.
So it's one of the strongest models of Starboard that they make. I made that switch. I learned some stuff about that during my testing phases. And then the base plate, the aluminum base plate on top, the custom hinge, and is all out of aluminum, all machined, all CNC machined. And then the handle pin system now is all stainless. It was an aluminum handle with stainless pins, and that has been changed recently, actually, and it's all stainless. It's a little heavier, a little more better feel to people, and yeah. So those are the three main components: stainless, aluminum, Starboard ST, and then of course all the hardware is stainless.
And I'm going to assume on some of this that the Starboard component that you're using, that's the one that's UV stabilized, so that if it's sitting out in the sun all the time, it's not going to really impact it at all.
Correct. That's one of the reasons I went with Starboard, a name that has, they pretty much originated this, were the originators of this stuff for us in the Greenville. They're also a local company to me. They're in Fort Myers.
Right.
So I always think that's kind of cool, being a local guy as myself. But they make a superior product. There's all kinds of different HDPEs and stuff out there. And instead of going through all that testing process with that, I just went to something that's been tried and true. And it was just an easy decision.
Yes.
You know, you could do it cheaper with other stuff.
Sure.
But I didn't want to play that game. You know, it makes it cost more, but I wanted all quality in my product. So that's why I went with Starboard.
Well, probably in the long run, it's costing less because you don't have failures. You don't have the issues that you could have.
Yeah, I mean, and with the UV, you know, it's like you said, like you were asking earlier, it's UV stabilized. It doesn't absorb water, which is huge. It doesn't change its dimensions much. It's
Right.
on the thousandths range of its expansion and contraction. So it keeps its shape and it doesn't get brittle. So, man, with all those factors involved, it was a no-brainer for me.
What about the metal components? What type of metallurgy are we employing in here, both the aluminum and the stainless steel?
It's 6061 aluminum, which is a very strong aluminum, you know, all CNC machined. The stainless is 3/16 or 304, depending on the part.
Right.
So it has, you know, great properties in the salt water as far as stainless grades go. You know, there's no such thing as stain proof. You know, it's stainless.
That's right.
So it still takes some maintenance from the owners. You know, like I wipe my stuff down with, you know, like corrosion X XD.
Right. It's great stuff.
Or something. It's awesome stuff. Just stuff like that. You got to maintain your stuff and keep it clean. But other than that, like anything else, like anything on your boat, you maintain it, it'll last forever.
No, this is true. All these components, Robbie, all made in the USA, I assume?
Every single one of them.
Awesome.
Everything's made here, like materials wise, as far as I know, or it's definitely machined here. Every part is made here. I know Starboard's made here. I would assume the aluminum's from here. But yes, everything is made or machined here. I assemble all of this myself. The powder coating's done here. All of it. Everything right here, and as local as I can have it.
So we can take that one level further. Made in Florida.
100%.
Awesome.
Every bit of it.
How does it compare strength-wise to the mounting plates that OEMs use, and that comes literally boxed with their respective trolling motors?
Depending on the mount, it's hard. Depending on the manufacturer, it's hard to say. I mean, it's definitely stronger in ways because you have an aluminum plate on top.
Right.
You have, how do you say this, Dave? Like, because of the slidability of it, it does change that to a degree. It's one reason why I've added, there's like overkill in the strength because you're taking a section out of the center. So you have the ability to slide the mount itself.
Understood.
So you had to when you take something away, I basically overcompensated for it.
Sure.
So with that being said, I mean, it's super strong. Like, you know, I've never had a puck failure, anything like that. It's been pretty rock solid. And so the way this thing's been designed, I'm pretty confident, you know, with all the different models that I have, you know, and with the right mount put to the right trolling motor / boat application, you should, a customer should never have an issue.
Well, and I dare say you've got quite a few of these that have been prototyped and tested on the various tournament events with the guys that you work with. So it's probably been pounded on pretty hard.
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, between that and like some of the captains that I know well, that I know I'm going to get legit feedback I got legit feedback from, not, hey man, I'll run that for free. You know, I mean, like guys that I could get, I trusted, I know that are on the water 300 plus days a year. And, you know, they might put it through more, honestly, on a daily basis than I would in a tournament season.
Oh yeah. They make for awesome lab rats. I get it.
Yeah. And, you know, so having 4 or 5 guys on my team or on my side or in my corner, giving me real feedback on, man, I wish this was this, or if this was like this, and like you got to make tweaks to it on the way up to before it got brought to the public.
Right.
You know, it was frustrating at times, to say the least.
I bet.
I mean, to say the least, it's very frustrating. You're like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this. And then like, now I've come this far. I'm going to get this finished. This is something that is needed. And a lot of people, I don't think even realize how much this is needed until they see it.
Until they see it.
Until they see it. I think it's one of those products that you can see pictures of it. You can do stuff until you watch a video or you get to see it on the bow of the boat. It changes the way they perceive it all. Like anything you see, whether it's pictures, it's anything. It's hard to look at something that's three-dimensional in a one-dimensional frame.
Well, this is true.
And it's super hard. So when you get to see how it truly functions on the bow of the boat, people, that's when they go, wow. That's where I get more of that, when they really get to lay their hands on it.
Right. Well, I love the support arm. And you and I have discussed this in the past. We know what kind of pounding you can put on one running across the chop. Talk to me about that feature and how it saves on the trolling motor's wear and tear and from damage.
Like I said, the support arm for me was the start of this whole thing, and it's one of, to me, it's the part of the mount that I think saves, or I would imagine, or in my own mind, really gives your trolling motor longevity. You don't have the shaft bouncing up and down and taking that beating when it's rough. Even going down the road. That's
right. Yeah, I was going to say, I know some roads that are worse than two for the chop.
Yeah. Louisiana, you just wish you had a helicopter and a boat that lived there, But, the sport arm for me is the biggest part. And it's adjustable. It fits every trolling motor shaft, from a Rodan, which actually has a bigger diameter nowadays than it used to. A Minn Kota, a power pole, all of them. Motor guide, it fits it all. And it's adjustable. So you can adjust. The arm slides up and down. You have two bolts that you tighten, and you can adjust the tension that you want on your trolling motor shaft.
Right.
And, it's on a hinge that is also, you can actually adjust the tension. And it also, so when you're not using it, or if your guy is throwing a cast net, or if you're just fishing from the deck of your boat, the hinge and arm fold down.
I love that.
Mount. So it's not sticking up all the time. So it's not a trip hazard. It's not a snag hazard. I've never had one of my captains complain, like, man, I got my net caught on it, or one of my clients tripped on it. Like, it's all that was thought about when I was putting that arm on. So it sits out on the end of the mount itself and stows away when it's not in use, and protects your trolling motor when it is.
I have boats in the past that had exposed cleats, and I swear every time I hooked up with a tarpon, he found every single one of them while I was running around chasing after this dude. So I love the fact that it folds. How much throw, brother, do you have on that as far as, vertical, to be able to make adjustments to support
way more than needed. There's roughly 1 3/4 inches of adjustment.
Oh, that much? I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, it's that much. Once the hinge is up, you have about that much in it. And the only reason I even have that much in it is because of the Alteras.
Right.
So I used to run one. So in all my testing, I was running an Altera. And so because of the way that shaft, that's the only trolling motor where the shaft doesn't come like out of the motor and like sits horizontal with the deck. It kind of has a rise to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sits off the deck higher than anybody else's trolling motor on, or shaft, excuse me.
Right.
And so I just kind of left that in there because you don't know who's going to buy it. So it covers all the bases out of the box and goes to, any brand trolling motor without having to worry about, oh man, I have the wrong arm or anything like that.
So now, what brands of trolling motors are you now supporting and it can mate up to? And I want to make sure that we covered the latest offerings that I'm aware of. I know that Lowrance has one. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Garmin has one. And we do know about the awesome power pole version, the Move that just came out. Is it adaptable? Will it work with all of those?
It'll work with the power pole Move. It works with the power pole Move, not the PV. So not a freshwater type trolling motor, no hand control, none of those. So
Okay.
like a Minn Kota, a Rodan, a power pole, Move, and a motor guide, they all work. Or your traditional, have your motor, your shaft sticks off your deck, like we think of saltwater fishing.
Right.
all of those style trolling motors, they work on. I'm actually working on right now on a mount. It would have no support arm, stuff like that, for those freshwater trolling motors like the Ghost. Minn Kota, Minn Kota makes one. They make a couple actually.
Right.
Who else? I mean, Rance, Garmin, all those, and I'm actually working on that at the moment. I've had some really good friends that live in up northwest that bass fish, because they don't have a choice.
Right.
And they talk about they wish that their trolling motor slid back some, like when they dock and things like that. So I'm actually working on that version for them at the moment.
Oh, awesome. Is there a limit on the trolling motor size? Can you handle the 112-pound thrust, 36-volt units?
Oh, yes, and then some. The power pole move is now the standard. It is when it comes to power. They trump everybody. They're pumping well above 125.
Wow.
Legit thrust. I've got the test my offshore version mount on it since last year on one of them, and with no issues. I've been on boats with them. They're amazing. So, but they fit everything. So there is 96 is kind of is like going to be your length range.
Mm-hmm.
87s, I can tell anybody that wants to run an 87-inch shafted trolling motor, like this arm is going to your trolling motor is going to the head of the trolling motor is going to have pretty much no wiggle. On a 96, it's going to have some wiggle. It's not going to like get slammed down and slap the top cap of your boat, but it's going to have a little wiggle. But strength wise of taking the 96, there's no problem with the mount part. It's just that you can only have the arm extend out down the shaft so long.
Right. Sure.
So I have them on some 96s, but 87s really, where I'm really comfortable. I think everybody's going to be super happy, where you don't have the wiggle, where it's truly going to perform as advertised.
What is the difference between, let's say, the skiff size and the other versions of the base itself? I think you have a bay boat and an offshore model also.
I do. So I have those three editions, yes, sir. And so the skiff model and the bay boat model are the same dimensions. It's 6 3/4 wide by 24 inches long. That's his total length. They each have an inch thick starboard base with a 1/4-inch aluminum plate on top.
Okay.
That your trolling motor mounts to, and you have a 1-inch thick starboard puck with a pin system that has a 1/4-inch pins. And the only difference that separates the skiff from the bay boat version is that the skiff puck, is shorter than the bay boat puck. So you have, instead of taking up like 5 inches, like it's a skiff model puck's like 5 inches long, and the bay boat version is like 9 and change.
Okay.
So you have more, you're dispersing the load bigger on the puck. So you have a wider handle pin. You're dispersing that load. So a skiff model is going to go to 80 pounds of thrust is where I have it rated for. Smaller skiff boats, 24-volt trolling motors on smaller boats, stuff like that.
That's why I was thinking 24-volt.
Yep. The bay boat version, up to 72-inch shaft lengths, 36-volt trolling motors, depending on the boat length. If you have a 24-foot boat like I run, and you want to run a 72-inch shaft Minn Kota, you can run the bay boat version. You got a 26-foot boat, I would recommend going the offshore version. The offshore version is just a beefed up version of the previous two discussed. And so instead of it being an inch of starboard and a 1/4-inch aluminum plate, it's an 1.5 inch thick starboard with a 3/8 aluminum plate. And then the pin is upsized to a 5/16 diameter pin for the handle. The hinge is the same. The arm is the same. Just everything about it is just beefed up to take those longer shaft trolling motors. That's a lot of torque. It's just more torque. More people realize how much torque those big long shafts way down in the water on some big boats take. So those are really the only two big differences are of them. Like I said, they're the same footprint size. All of them the same footprint size, just different size puck, different size material to support what trolling motor you have on them.
Yeah, handle the stress. And I can see that with some of those offshore rigs that are, let's say, a cat haul, where they've got quite a bit of sponson under them. That's a lot of throw there that you've got to.
Oh, it is. I mean, they've come out now with a 108-inch shaft trolling motor. Rodan has.
You can mount that thing on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, that's not even the game I'm playing right now. And those cat boats are having to run too.
Right.
If you got a cat and one trolling motor, you need two of them. So that's a lot of hardware they have up there. They're pretty impressive where the trolling motor game is going. With the offshore guys. Like, I mean, 10 years ago, they never even thought about it. Now they're all one.
Oh yeah, spot lock capability. You don't have to deploy an anchor. There's so many things that you can do with this, especially when they're running and gunning from one patch reef to another just to be able to throw the trolling motor down and hold you in place. That's
correct, man.
A game changer.
It's easy on your whole body, makes your fishing fishing time just so much more enjoyable.
Exactly. Any clearance issues using with, let's say, an all-terra unit that self-deploys? How well does it work with those?
Oh, it works fine. Just like when you set it up and you mount on your boat, it comes with a crazy amount of directions, video to watch. It has a waterproof template in the box. So, I mean, the average guy that has a few tools can mount this trolling motor like pretty quickly. You drill 4 holes for your puck. A lot of times you can share one from another brand, depends on where you want to mount your puck. Right, but all you got to do is when you set it up there, you just have it set up to deploy to the trolling motors, the manufacturer of your particular trolling motor to its distance off the rub rail, and mark it, set it all up, and drill your holes, mount your puck, and you're done.
What about for stern mounts?
No issues. For
those guys that put them on the stern, any clearance issues or that you've seen?
I don't know anybody that really has them on the stern. Now, I know that have mounted them on the stern. Like I carry a backup trolling motor, so I just have a spare puck on my back edge of my transom where my trolling motor sits, port to starboard.
Sure.
It sits sideways, and I carry it as a backup while I'm on the water, especially when I'm out of town, in case something goes wrong, because it does. Now, I've done that to several boats where they just have a spare puck, or some guys like to run for whatever reason, they think they're faster, they might be faster. They move their trolling motor to the back of their boat or the floor of their boat while they're running, and then they put it up. Then they pick it up and put it up front when they're ready to fish. So I've done that option a lot, but I don't know anybody that has one on the stern at this moment.
If you already have an OEM puck in place, what do you need to do or take in consideration to upgrade to the shore up mount?
My puck does not match, so my base is not going to adapt to anybody else's puck. So it has its own puck diet, its own dimensions, its own angle. You would have to definitely take mount off of the puck off of your original mount, unless you have the old Minn Kota, the little bitty puck, the quick connect system from back in the day before they changed it to their bigger one.
Right.
Like for the skiff version, if you have like a little Minn Kota puck, those holes do line up, but the rest of them do. The bay boat and the offshore models do not. It's just a different pattern because of the way I pinned it and how long the puck is. A lot of times you can share some of the pucks, but with the way my mount works, with it being able to be where you can slide it, you may not even want to use the same. A lot of times the same holes are not going to be as beneficial with my mount as a traditional mount, because you may want the puck slid back farther or positioned farther back on the deck.
Right,
because
you have that
use the slide.
Right, yes. You have that sliding capability, and that's something I think we need to touch upon. That's one of the things I love about this mount is the ability to move the trolling motor fore and aft to clear a roller on the trailer or just to get it into different water. How much throw do we actually have in this mount?
Depending on the model, the skiff model has the most. It has like 7 inches and change.
Okay.
And the bay boat and offshore model have like 5 3/8 inch of ability to slide, of that much slide ability. So where it has its advantage, I did it because of, like you just touched on, the roller. I run a 24 Skeeter, and you launch it on a steep ramp, especially on low water, and your trolling motor is going to grab the roller.
Right.
Like there's almost, unless you launch it yourself and you pick it up and push it over the roller, like it's you got to be very careful. So I use the entire slide on my mount, but it also gives you the other reason I like the slide ability is, like, if you're going to dock and you got the nose up somewhere and you don't want to bump your trolling motor, just pull the pin, slide it back, put it back in, and you can slide it back. The other thing is what I've learned that stallers love about it, and something I really didn't think about when I was designing the slide part of it, was for these boats where you can't get all 4 bolts in a puck because it has to be so far up in a valve, depending on how the valve's made, or they can't get their hand there. I've heard so many horror stories about they couldn't bolt it, so they just put a screw through the deck. You know, those kind of things. Well, now, even if you don't need the slide like I use it, you can still mount the puck farther back on your deck.
Right.
Use the slide to mount your puck. That way you can mount back completely through bolt the entire thing, put a backing plate on if you need it. There's plenty of room, and you can go on. So that's the mountability to slide is more than just the roller. That was the original thought in it, but it has become much, much more.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually modified the pins where you can always get a hold of it with your hand, unlike the ones that go flush and you're breaking fingernails and using flat blade screwdrivers to get this thing pulled out. You've got it offset. What is it? Quarter of an inch, half inch to be able to just grab
it? Like an inch and a half.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite parts about it, honestly. Again, that when I was doing this, I'm like, we might as well make this when we get our hands on this thing. So the pin has its own, doesn't matter which model it is, it all has the same amount of offset. And it just stops. So when you push it in, your pin actually is bigger on the very end before the handle, and it just stops on the side of the mount. So you can get your hands on, and it doesn't matter what brand it is. The widest trolling motor base, the way the width of the body and the covers are, is an Altera, and that I have messed with. And so that's the fattest, widest trolling motor base that there is. And I did it off of that one. So everything else is even a bigger breeze. Like you can get your hands into it, you can pull it out, you can push it back in easy. There's no more bloody knuckles. There's no more worrying about, hitting the deck. And also the pin system, the way I built this one, the way I designed it on one of the pins, it receives a coupler lock. So instead of having to put a pad light through a ring and having it bang and scratch and rust down onto your deck of your boat, you can put a coupler lock on the very end of the pin, and it just sits on it. So it's not banging and touching the deck. And you can't there's not enough room in there. You can't just go there and cut the pin off. It's pretty secure. Like someone's going to have to be planned out and work really, really hard with a hacksaw blade in their hand to cut the pin to get this mount off your boat.
That's all you need. Buy yourself a little bit of time so you can make sure you can get a good aim on them.
That's right. That way you make sure the red dot's where you want it.
That's right. Especially at night. I get it. If it's installed correctly, I'm going to assume that we have basically the same life expectancy as the OEM mounts, if not longer.
Yeah, I mean, I've had one on my boat for almost 3 years.
And tournament pounding on top of that.
Yeah, everyday use here, there, everything I've done. I mean, it's been rock solid. I've changed like the top plate out because I've changed the color for like a photo shoot or something like that. But
sure.
I'm running the exact same puck until I just switched the pin system. I've been running the same pin system, the same hinge. I've changed the arm design just because of pull factor, not the shape of it.
Right.
So those little things have been changed, but the hardware of it, no, I haven't changed it at all. And it's so the life expectancy to me right now is 3 years, and then who knows where.
Should anybody have any type of OEM warranty concerns if they're using your mount and not the one that was supplied by the factory?
No, because there's no trolling motor brand that has anything to do with their warranty, with any kind of mount.
Okay, great.
I mean, they all have the same bolt pattern, so which is very awesome that they've done that. So that's why my mount is so easily compatible to all the trolling motors. Like you could literally bolt a Rodan mount underneath the new power pole trolling motor if you wanted to, and vice versa. You could mount it up there if that's what you want to do. You can put a motor guide under a Minn Kota. The only thing that makes it different is you can't put like a Minn Kota mount on one boat and a motor guide mount on the other boat because the puck diameter and angles don't match.
Right.
But to accept it to the bottom of the trolling motor, you can mix and match that part of it any way you want. So there's no fear of this thing not mounting up to any saltwater trolling motor that's out there.
I'm going to assume that with the slidability here, this makes it even more handy. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the guys over at East Cape started this, but can you use a shore up mount for what they call a guide configuration where it's sitting pretty much parallel?
Yeah, it's all that's going to depend on the shape of the bow, to be honest, and how far over you want it, and then how far can you reach under to through bolt it. So there's always those three factors: the shape of the bow, can you through bolt it there, can you get to it,
right,
and even like physically to put washers and nuts on it, and how much of it you want to hang over when you do that. But yes, I've done that several times.
Do you have any of the boat manufacturers grabbing your mount and using them during production yet?
Black tip boats. I just started with them a couple months ago.
Oh, great.
And I'm actually in talks right now with two others. So that's kind of coming along. That's where I'd love it to be. I have a fairly decent, for as short as I've been doing it, dealer network, I call it.
Right.
Which is really where I'm at with it. That's where I really want to do.
Sure.
Is get this around and support the companies that support all of us.
Right.
And, as corny as it may sound, I mean, this fishing thing really is, and should be, in my opinion, more of a brotherhood than a competition.
Right.
And, there's been so many great products that have come from our area. Mike Mahoney is the one who kind of pointed it out to me one day. You got bull bait rods, you got bob shack plates, you got power pole, 13 fishings in our backyard now. And then it goes on, cleanse oil and all these things, all boat builders, all these things that happen right here that are made or designed or started in our 150-mile radius is really
amazing.
Impressive to me.
It is amazing.
And I'm just glad and trying to be part of it. Like that's where this is. I would love to see, obviously, I'd love to see every boat on the water with a trolling motor have my mount,
sure.
And it's not for every boat, just like everything. Like you can't put it on every single thing out there, but there's been very few of them that I haven't been able to.
How about aluminum hulls? Have you had any installations on the aluminum hull boats as of yet?
I actually have, mostly like little local bass guys that run like the Minn Kota freshwater version of like a Tarova, the black ones. Yeah, I've done several of those. Like you can put it on an aluminum boat. Like it's like depending on how thick the aluminum is, you can bolt right up to it. Most of those guys are running 24 volt, 80-pound thrust trolling motors, 54-inch shafts. Like they're real small, anyways. So usually you can get away with it, but if not, just slap a vacuum plate under it and off you go.
Yeah,
so I've done several of them.
For those who don't want to drill into their expensive skiffs, do you have a list of installers as of yet?
I do. I mean, they can check out the website at shoreupfishing.com. There's a list of the places. I mean, like off the top of my head, you have Boat Motor Superstores, you have T.A. Mahoney's. I love those guys to death. I mean, like third or fourth generation family. They were my very, very first dealer.
Oh, I bet. Yep.
They took like Mike, like he took it in and, on faith. And I think they've done fairly well with them there. They've sold several of them that I know of. That I'm trying to think who else installs. Bull Bay Rods they carry them, or Bull Bay Tackle, they call it. They were doing some install stuff at one point at the back of their shop. So yeah, there's several people out there, and if that's what you're wanting to do, and if anybody has any questions, they can always hit me up and I can send them to the right place.
Well, I'm guilty as charged. Grabbing a drill bit and hitting an expensive skiff, it's definitely one of those scenarios of measure 10 times and drill once. That's some expensive holes.
100%. Like with all the testing that I did and all my guys, so I'm doing all the installs, and so I've gotten really good at it. But like you get used to it, But yes, it is nerve wracking. I understand why people don't want to mess with it.
These are expensive skiffs,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. And they'd rather have someone else have the liability and all that kind of stuff. And I see that, and that's why we have guys out there that do this for a living. And they're good at it. So.
Well, and after you've done it several times, you've got it suitcased. You know what you're doing from that point. It's just the guy who's the DIY do it itself. He's like, oh man, I hope I'm not tearing up something while I'm drilling his hole. I mean, there's just a lot of things can take consideration if you've never done it before. So
100%.
Yeah, it's the pucker factor. I get it. I get it. Roughly how long does it take to have one installed so one of your, customers can get a rough idea of what they should anticipate labor charge wise?
It's definitely easier to have two people, mainly for two reasons. One, when you're trying to like deploy the trolling motor and figure out where you want to sit on the boat so you have the clearance you need before you decide where you're going to mount the puck. That's one thing. You can do it by yourself, but it's way easier with two people. And then mounting the puck, depending on the bow. Like if you can't, some boats you can't have a wrench on the nut and have a wrench on the top of the bolt. It's just impossible.
Can't reach.
So if you had everything ready, like if you had the old puck off, you had your trolling motor, out of the way, and it was ready to go. With two people that have never done it before, you should have it on in under an hour. Oh. That's mounting the mount to the trolling motor itself. Whether you buy a new one, like I said, if you have one you're going to reuse, or going to take this mount off and change it, just go ahead and have it unbolted, have the covers off. You're going to do that anyways. But whenever you have that ready to go, you should have it done in under an hour, because at that point, all you're doing is bolting 6 bolts you're bolting the trolling motor to the mount itself, which is 6 bolts. There's 2 bolts to the hinge, 2 bolts to the arm, and 4 bolts to the puck, or 6 if you have an offshore version. And so really, once you have it all lined up, it goes pretty quick. So after you get the puck mounted, all you do is put it on there, pin it in place, and wire it up, and you're ready to go fishing.
Speaking of that, brother, and I can't imagine needing to do this, but I wanted to cover this just to make sure. Do you need to make any wiring modifications to install this?
Not really. The one thing about a Minn Kota, I will say this about a Minn Kota, is the Minn Kota wire comes out underneath the foot pedal.
Right.
Like that's a really cool thing about the move, is it comes out on the starboard side of the motor, out the side, just like your wire to the head of your motor goes to. Mm-hmm. That's really nice because it's not in the way of the mount, and they don't have a traditional pedal. But on the Minn Kota one, sometimes when that big thick wire that is doubled up will get turned on its side, and it can make pushing the pedal down a little difficult. Like it doesn't want to quite unhook. I just drilled 2 little holes in my side cover on the starboard side of my motor, because that's where mine's bound on the port side. So my wires are coming over and going into a clamshell or into my anchor locker.
Right. And
I just have them zip tied right there out of the way. It just gets them out of the way, and it's just a cleaner look. It's not a necessity, but that's the only trolling motor where I've seen sometimes where, like, depending on how that wire rolls up there, it can kind of impede you pushing the pedal all the way down, because you have a part of the mount there now instead of it being out in the open.
Exactly.
With a traditional mount. But other than that, that's it. I've never had another wiring issue, anything like that. That's just a little trick I do to some of the ones that I've installed, and I do it tonight.
And I'm sure they can see that on some of the example photography that's up on the website.
Correct.
Talk to me about colors. And I know some that are real anal about how their ride looks. Guilty as charged. How many colors can you order the mount in, and can you also facilitate custom colors to match the hull or whatever effect you're looking to get?
So my 2 standard colors are white and black, like traditionally.
Sure.
Those are ones that I have always ready, available, and either model or edition. It doesn't matter. You can do custom colors, powder coating, stuff like that, but you're always depending on what you want to do with your powder coating. So you're going to have a plate and a hinge that's powder coated.
Right.
Your other limitations, to the custom color is always going to be what starboard you choose. They only make so many colors. So you'd have to have, you wanted like somebody for some whatever reason wanted a lime green mount. They're going to have to figure out if they want a white base or a black base or a gray base. The one on my boat is solid gray. Because I have a gray boat.
Right, blends into your hull.
It just matches, because I can get gray starboard and half inch as well. So everything on mine is gray. So that is something I was able to do because starboard makes it, and obviously I can buy gray starboard. But depending on what colors they pick, it's going to be, the starboard is going to be a limitation. I guess I should say that would be.
Sure.
But yes, we do. I have done a couple custom things where guys have wanted like a red base with a black mount. A black starboard with red powder coat.
Right.
Because they had a red and white boat thing, a red and black boat thing. So yes, it can be done.
How many different colors can you get that ST version of Starboard in nowadays?
It's like 6 or 7
Is
colors,
it?
but most of them they're pretty neutral. Like you have black, white, you have what they call seafoam, which is actually kind of like that off-white color that you see like on a Brady white top kind of top deck, like that
Yes.
ironish, like that light
Yes.
color.
Uh-huh.
You have there's like 2 or 3 different shades of gray, and there's something else. It's almost what you would think of seafoam green. It's like a real light greenish color that you can get. So there are still a number of colors, but what I keep in stock is black and white.
I get it. Totally understand. Because that's the
Yeah,
majority of the orders are going to be coming through. That's for sure.
it is, and like ever since the whole 2020 thing, it's been hard like to keep up. Like I got to place orders 10 and 12 weeks out
It's just insane.
with King just to get certain things. It's really hard.
I can imagine.
So it's like actually for that OEM builder for black tip, they wanted that seafoam, that off white color, and I'm like, I can get it, but it's going to take time. And I ordered it, and it was like 10 to 12 weeks out. So they're going to have to wait 10 to 12 weeks out to be able to offer that color to their customers at this point because of that. And no distributor has it. That's just King. That's waiting on King to actually when they're going to produce it at this moment. So those kind of Starboard is usually my biggest limitation of anything, powders, machining, all that. That's really no problem. But Starboard can be my holdup if they want something custom.
Understood. Talk to me about the difference between the shore up kit and the extra shore up mount. If somebody's looking to place an order or they have a special needs, what's the dividing between the two?
So one thing that I do offer that I think a couple of the OEM guys have finally kind of come around to is offering like accessory parts. Meaning, back in the day, if you had a Minn Kota mount, like a little traditional, just a regular quick connect mount, and you had a second boat or wanted a second puck with one trolling motor or whatever, you had to buy another mount just to get the puck.
Right.
So I sell extra pins. I mean, it happens. I've done it. I dropped one of mine in the water one day, and I literally jumped in and went swimming for it because I didn't have a backup in my boat, but I have rectified that problem.
What'd you do? Put a tether on it?
Have a backup. Huh?
What'd you do? Put a tether
you
on
could
it?
do a tether. I've known some guys that have done some tethers. I haven't. I didn't. That day, I wish I did. I'm sure it was really, really cute and Keaton Beach. Some, chubby, glow in the dark dude jumping in the 7 foot of water in his boxers, to go down and get his pin. But I did it because I wouldn't have been able to run home without it. So extra pins, pucks. I have strengthening spacers. I have puck spacers. So for somebody that already has some kind of marine mat on their deck, and it's made for it, and it's kind of being cut out for a regular traditional mount. Well, mine's longer, so it's gonna need to sit on the part of it's going to sit on the decking that you already have, unless you have it cut out. You can put a puck spacer which levels everything out, so you can get above the mat and not have to cut your mat out, so you don't have to make that decision.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I can see where that would be a problem.
I ran into it with someone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I better go make this. So I got a hold of some 1/4-inch Starboard, and it's basically a mimic of the puck. Like you can't even tell it's there.
Sure.
So, I have all these extra things, like the offshore, for example, the offshore edition comes with a backing plate in the box.
Right.
No one else does. If you need a backing plate, I already have it done with the hole pattern built in. And you can trim it. It's just a piece of 3/8 of aluminum. And you can trim it, cut it, and make it fit up underneath your boat if you don't have the room. So I've tried to think of every little aftermarket type thing that somebody or a customer may need because they either, I want to sell my boat, but I don't want to change my mount.
Right.
I just buy a puck, or I need a second puck, or I have 2 boats and I use one trolling motor. Things like that. So I have every accessory. The coupler locks I sell that fit this mount. Not any coupler lock will fit the pin because they make so many different ones. It was hard to find one that did that, but I try to have all my bases covered for everybody.
So I can get an empty mount, so I can, mount it on the garage wall or the bed of the truck or any other places then, correct?
Correct, yeah. So all you got to do is just say, hey, I need an extra puck. I have a black Bayboat edition, and it'll come with the puck and the hardware.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. What kind of warranty are we carrying on this product now, brother?
I have a 1-year anything warranty on it.
That's great.
That really goes to the powder coating and stuff. You know, I mean, powder coating and salt water is, I have found the best powder coating that I can find. And the best powder coaters I can find. I was even doing it myself for a while because I had such a hard time doing it. Finding someone that I liked during my prototyping.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's a 1-year for sure. Take care of it. But, you know, Shore Up is all about customer service. And we want people happy. And if there's some kind of defect or like I think I had one pin in a hinge like break for whatever reason. It's the only one I've ever had it happen to. And I just sent it to the hinge and return another label. Like I want that on the back. I want to see what happened. And send him a hinge. You know, and it was after a year. Like, so we want to take care of our customers.
That's great. That's awesome. So what's next, buddy? You got anything top secret you want to let us know about?
Yeah, nothing really top secret. Like I said, I'm just going to work on that. I'm working on that freshwater mount. That's my next thing. I just changed the pin system a little bit. You know, I'm always trying to tweak on it. I'm working on a little something. So on the side of the base plate, you know, there's 11 holes on each side for all the adjustments. So they're on inch and 3/8 increments. And I've been working on a really clever, nice, like a plug system.
Okay.
To put in with it. So like some people when they slide, like, so let's say like me, like on my boat, I slide all the way to one end and all the way to the other. So it's super easy for me to find the holes.
Right.
And so, but if someone's sliding from like hole 2 to hole 10, and they're only using like 3 inches of slide, and that's all they need. Well, it can be unless you use it for a while until you figure it out. It's hard to kind of get it lined up to the puck, like tapping it and getting it slid in there in the right way. Right. So I am working on something to maybe like little nice like little plug system going so people can like blank out. They can change it if they need to and have like a little blank out plug to go in the holes that they're not using to help them remember where there should be and where.
Well, that's a heck of an idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the tennis ball hanging down in the garage, so you don't run the truck into the. I get it.
Yeah, it's just an aid. It's just an aid. So I'd say that's my little top secret thing. Maybe I'm working on just something a little extra. I'm always trying to evolve the product.
Sure, and makes it quick, visual, saves time.
Yeah, I want everything as easy for people as possible, and also give it aesthetics. Like this thing looks so good, and it looks so great on a boat, and I want to keep it that way.
I agree. Oh, it's fine looking. I love the way it looks, and I love the functionality of it. That's for sure.
Appreciate that.
Anything else you'd like everybody to know or we missed on our coverage on this puppy?
Well, man, I say that you guys need to go to flatsnation.com. Check out, Dave's got tons and tons of information. I've learned some stuff reading all of his. He has a ton of podcasts and a ton of articles. Join his nation. I have a 10% off discount through his site only. So if you guys are interested in them out, want to save a few bucks, support another local guy who's supporting us. I say look up Dave's Flats Nation.
Thank you, buddy. Do appreciate that. Yeah, we did an article coverage, and we've got some more in the works on flatsnation.com, and we have this as a special. When you go to order one, just put in the promo code FlatsNation10 and save 10% on it. So everybody a little bit helps, that's for sure. Well, brother, thanks for joining us today. I do appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to us working on some more content creation as far as photography and maybe some video on how the different configurations look and how they're installed. I dare say that no two boats are alike when it comes to installing one because no two bows are alike.
True story.
Yeah, very true. I mean, you've put it on about 20, 30 different hulls by now?
I put them on quite a few different ones, from skiffs to big boats. And I even flew to New Jersey one time with one. I have a dealer in New Jersey, and they're almost all big boats, and that's the thing I wish would change. Be my last thing I'd want to say. I wish some of these offshore boat companies would change their top caps.
I bet. Well, and they're not taking provisions for a trolling motor most of the time because they're not even thinking they're going to use one.
No, and that's why they're that way. I mean, they're pretty and they're nice, and they all slope off the rub rail, and they got 6 and 7 inches of slope from the non-skid to the rub.
Right.
And it's hard to mount anything and to get something hung over enough to work. And when that changes, I think it's going to change a lot more, change the game for a lot more guys going offshore. You know?
Well,
so,
yeah, especially when they start seeing how easy it is to do a quick spot lock and basically anchor and just sit there without having to deal with, anchor, the chain, the road, the whole 9 yards. Just push a button. Oh,
yeah, life's easy.
Oh, yeah. And then stow it again and move to the next spot.
Correct.
That's a lot easier than pulling in, 200 yards of line. That's a job.
Yeah, that's probably why I redfish. I don't need an anchor. Fishing shallow water acres.
I get it, bro.
Only rope I use to tie up to the dock.
That's it. And I only got 2 of them. And I only use one. I have 2 just as a backup. I'm usually just tying it off from the center console just to get her back on the trailer again.
Exactly. So that's pretty much it. That and the way in. That's all it is. So
yeah, this dropping anchor and sitting on the deep water. No. As I tell most everybody goes fishing with me, you don't have to worry about drowning. You may break your neck because the water's a foot deep.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to have to worry about drowning too terribly much. Or I'll pull you out long before we have that issue.
Exactly. I didn't getting this gut I have is not cheap. So I don't want to be the guy there pulling that rope in.
I get it.
I get it. In the shallows. So.
That's for sure. Well, thanks for joining us today, brother. I do appreciate it. Great reviewing the product. You and I have talked about this quite a bit in the past, and I'm just a big fan of it. I like the functionality aspects, and more important, I like the fact that it just adds so much more stability to the head of the trolling motor as it's getting bounced around. I mean, I've even in the past with my applications have used a strap just to strap it down to a cleat just to keep it from bouncing up and down like a basketball up there.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a game changer for that.
It is.
No straps, flip of a hinge, and no, it's been a lot of fun designing. It's been fun being on here with you. I appreciate the invite. Hope everybody gets something out of this, and come look us up.
Thanks for joining us today, brother. And we'll look forward to have you on again real soon as we cover some more advancements with this product for sure.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, brother. Well, we hope you enjoyed our show today and found it both educational and entertaining at the same time. If you or your company would like to join the team on Flats Nation for a podcast or other coverage, feel free to drop us a quick note at info@flatsnation.com. And now, here's the rest of the song to run the skiff back home with. Tight lines and God bless.